Hey everybody, can y'all hear me okay? Okay, so it looks like we're having some issues with recording, so hold on one second. Okay, let's see. Looks like we're being recorded, so sorry about that. Hello everyone and welcome to today's webinar, The Art of Launching a Side Business, brought to you by your Vanderbilt Alumni Association. I'm Sarah Whitney Anderson, Assistant Director of Alumni and Student Engagement, and I'm so glad you could join us from wherever you are this afternoon. Special plug for any of those in Nashville right now, we're thinking about you, and if you need anything, just let us know. Holler to your Alumni Association. We want to make sure that all of our alumni are safe. Well, today's webinar will last around 45 minutes with time at the end for questions. Please feel free to type questions as you have them in the questions box on the side panel of your screen throughout the presentation, and we will make sure the recording is just being funky. So sorry about that, guys. We will record today's webinar as long as this keeps saying it's recording, and you can find that on View Connect later. I will also be sending out an email with other alumni career offerings and a direct link to this webinar. Our host today, Tiffany Franklin, is an executive consultant and career coach with 20 years of experience, currently working as Associate Director of Career Services at the University of Pennsylvania. In her prior role, Tiffany served as tech recruiter for an international creative staffing agency. And in 2011, Tiffany launched a career consulting business that has helped over 600 clients, ranging from recent graduates to C-level executives with 30-plus years of experience. Tiffany spent 7 years as an assistant director at the Vanderbilt Career Center, and she earned a BA from Vanderbilt with honors in psychology and her MS.Ed from University of Pennsylvania with a concentration in counseling. I'm really excited to turn it over to our dear alumna, Tiffany, but first we're going to take a little poll so she can understand who is with us today. So I'm going to launch this now, and if y'all could answer this while Tiffany gives us a hello.
Hi, everybody. I'm really excited to be here today and hopefully provide you some helpful information if you are thinking about starting a side business and answer any questions you may have.
Perfect. Y'all are quick voters. All right. So right now we've got 9% already have a side business, 58% plan to launch one in the next year, and 33% are just curious.
Wow, those are great numbers here. So thank you so much for taking the time to answer that question. It's kind of helping me where you're at. And again, we'll have some questions at the end, and unless there's something you need me to go back and say, you can always chat in with the message board, and hopefully we'll help you no matter where you are in the process. So let's begin. Okay, I am trying to move this slide forward, Sarah Whitney.
Hello? I'm sorry, what was that?
I am trying to move the slide forward, but it's giving me issues. Oh, there we go.
Oh, there we go.
Okay, everybody. Sorry about that. So today what I'm going to talk about is just briefly what was my journey to side work, what are some of the opportunities available for you, questions about what you can make and pricing, business structures, and really the big thing I think on everybody's mind, how do you get started, marketing yourself, or for those of you that already have started, how do you take yourself to the next level? Finding time to balance it with your real job if you have another one in life, the similarities and differences I see with my working with college students for my day job at UPenn, and then the key thing that talks about, repeat business is delivering that great client experience, avoiding conflicts of interest since this is side work, and then designing it to fit your needs. So my journey basically started back in 2011, although I've been a career coach since 98, and over the years, I just did a ton of people's resume for free, just, to help out friends and family, but it started to get bigger over the years, and I realized I should be charging for this. I mean, obviously not immediate family and friends, but as it got to be friends of friends of friends. So I was actually a bridesmaid in 3 weddings that were out of town, and I did not want Amex to send people with little black suits to carry me away. So that's how my side business started where I thought, let me monetize something that's low-hanging fruit. I briefly thought about some other jobs I could take. I could just go to the mall, work in a Mac store, but then I thought, I could only make whatever was minimum wage or something, and I wanted something that the possibilities were endless. So the good news is that there is enough work out there for all of us. I remember sitting at that friend's wedding talking to somebody else who had started a company a few years before, and I was doing a ton of research on, what was out there and starting to make some progress, but it was still, the process was a little intimidating. And she said, there really is enough work out there for everybody. And I think that is something, when you do come across the inevitable ups and downs of this, to remember. And it really is, getting started is easier than you think. So there are different ways that you can test the waters, and I find that it's really worth it. In the beginning, I was making a few hundred every month, and then I got to the point where I can make a few thousand, and that's with about 20 hours a week. And there's so many different possibilities for you. I mean, the low-hanging fruit is to do something related to your day job, consulting, but then, career coaching, resumes, but then there's also, maybe you want to do something completely different. So some people just do the quick and easy Lyft and Uber. There's retail, dog walking, blogging, websites. If you're graphic design, what's that special sauce that you have or talent that you can monetize? And there's an article right there that talks about 21 high-paying side jobs from theladders.com. So you can check that out for some ideas if you're not sure. When you think about what's the best side business for you, I like to do this values exercise. It's actually where I work right now. It's on the Penn website. You can follow that link, and there's no firewall there, so you'll be able to get to it. Essentially what it has are, what are 35 qualities of a job? And it can be from, does it pay well? Is it flexible? Do you have intellectual status? Is it creative? So of these 35, you go through, spend about 5 minutes and pick what are your top 5 right now, and then rank order them. I have people just for any job search do that when they're first starting and then when they decide among offers. But I think it's interesting for your side job because this really helps get at your priorities. And what your priorities are for your side job can be very different than what they are for your main one. So think about those primary goals as you're beginning, or if you're taking your job to the next step. One thing too, as we talked about, do you want it to relate to your primary job, and how soon do you need to make money? I know with mine, I think I launched in May of 2011, and within about 3 weeks, I made some money, and I was starting to network with people, and then I found this old website called Elance, which is now Upwork, which we'll get into later. Also, do you need equipment to begin? I mean, these days it's so easy. If you have a laptop, usually that's enough if you're doing a lot of jobs online. Just to give you perspective, since I launched in 11, I've had over 600 clients in my side business. I think I've met with 5 of them in person. They have all been pretty much remote, which is fantastic because as I've moved cities and move around, or if I go on vacation, I can take work with me, although I'm trying for the life balance part to get away from that a little bit. Also, you want to think about, do you want or need to work alone? Will you have partners or employees in the future? And that's going to come into play when you talk about business structures. And again, I am not an attorney or anything, so I recommend you talk to an employment attorney or business if you want to talk about the structures. But to save money, I did a lot of research online, and LegalZoom was great. That's how I did my LLC. Right now, I have both a sole proprietorship and an LLC, which I'm pretty much going to eventually wrap the sole proprietorship in that LLC. Basically, just again, my novice advice is if you own property, have children or other assets like that, you want to make sure that you do an LLC or some other structure to protect it. Sole proprietorship is the cheapest and easiest, but it does leave you open to some risk. So again, consult with an attorney and accountant for that. If you want to get some good advice, that's free because, again, I was trying to do this side business to make money, so I was trying to minimize my output in the beginning. There's some organizations, it's called SCORE. It's a nonprofit business, small business mentoring. So there's some great resources for entrepreneurs. Also, there's a lot of entrepreneur centers, like in Nashville, they have one in various cities. So if you're either living in a big city or near one, I would Google to see about that. Or even just from some other cities, you can see the Nashville Entrepreneur Center and just see what they have that, a lot of the resources aren't always behind firewalls. So to get going, create your business name, bank account. You've got to keep everything separate from your individual finances. And I did a PayPal right away so I could get paid. The other thing is make sure you save all your receipts, keep the things separate. And I recommend getting an email too. So you can just go on and Google how to set up your business email, because it looks much stronger if, I have mine, Tiffany at tjfcareercoach.com, rather than, for a while I was tjfcareercoach at gmail.com. It just gives you more legitimacy. So a typical week, now this is going to vary for you and your needs. I do about 15 to 20 hours on evenings and weekends. And then my day job is at UPenn, where, so I joke that by day I work with students in engineering from freshmen to masters, finding jobs at, Google and top firms in the country. And then in the evening, it's executives. I try to average about 1 to 2 hours a night and 4 to 5 hours each weekend day. It just depends on the week and my workload. Coffee shops and co-working spaces, I had thought about the WeWork, but the thing is, again, I want to keep my money going just to the absolute expenses that I need, but sometimes I just can't stay in my house too much longer. So I have found some great coffee shops. I know in Philly they have a place called Capital One, which is this great one that everybody's doing work, helps you concentrate. The main thing to keep in mind, there's going to be a lot of feast or famine with this. That's just how it goes. So, basically breathe when you're going through the feast and hang in there through the famine. One thing that I started doing was have an Excel spreadsheet. Each week I will put a little line for, say I'm hoping to make $1,500 that week or something. So then I will go through, and as I get my people, I will put their names, what I'm doing for them, how much money, was it Upwork, was it PayPal, and then also I keep track of the hours I spent. I am embarrassed to say it took me years before I started doing that. I just had all these lists around, but that way I put it in a Google Doc and I can go back to that from my phone, from wherever, to see, who am I calling tonight? What do I need to do? How much money do I need to make? So then as I do some outreach and stuff like that, I'm keeping track of the effort. So that's my Saturdays at Saxby's often. So let's talk about how to get started. Or again, I think this can even, if you're already launched, maybe there's some other avenues you haven't tried. So one of the big things is connect with others. You want to see what helped them launch. So research your market, both local and online, and really think about what value is it that you give, because sometimes it can be overwhelming. It seems like the market is already so saturated. It's like, another blog or another person selling this. But the thing is, you bring something special. So it's figuring out how you're unique and how you can deliver an experience unlike everybody else. I would consider multiple sources for promotion. So you want to get your social media going right away. And then again, I'm a huge fan of the site Upwork, which for those who aren't sure, it's basically like eBay, but instead of products on there, it's people with services. So you have your page where you say who you are, what you deliver, and then there'll be a lot of people who say, oh, like in my case, I need a resume done, or I need career coaching, I need a cover letter. Other people go on there and they need editing, they need some consulting, they need graphic design, they need websites. There's all these different categories beyond what you would think. And then you can bid on their job. It's just a $10 or $15 a month fee to belong there, and then they take 20%, which I know the 20% seems steep, but yet the clients that I have gotten from that, I get 60% of my work from Upwork, and then the other 40% just comes from past clients, referrals, Vandy, a little bit of everything. We talked about the business email. You really do want to launch a website, and I think the thing is, it's like an interactive business card once you get going. And there's a lot of sites. I do mine through WordPress, and you can do them through Wix or a lot of other things. It costs, by the time all is said and done, probably a few $100s once a year to get everything going, but it really makes a difference in people being able to go and see something tangible. Also on Upwork, you have a lot of reviews, so that's where people can see other people and how they've experienced you. So it comes down to crafting a great pitch. This is almost like tell me about yourself for the jobs, but geared towards potential clients. So, when I was in recruiting, we always talked about clients' pain points. So thinking about how are you making their life easier? And so I would come up with some bullet points that really talk about your main value add, your education, jobs, skills, other experiences and competencies. And it doesn't all have to be related exactly to what you're doing now. Sometimes you can have, a summer job or something you did for 5 years that you feel like is completely unrelated, but yet those transferable skills of communication, working with teams, client management can all come into it and help you excel in this one. And again, as you do your pitch, make sure you change it slightly for each client and do a little research on them as you're talking about what you're looking for. In fact, on that spreadsheet I was talking about at the bottom, I call it pipeline. And so I have a list of people who've reached out and wanted to have, initial conversation about what they're looking for, what I could deliver. I then also have an email folder where I call it pipeline. And so then I always am trying to get not only my work for this week, but then the next week. And then if for some reason I go into one of those famine type situations, then I just start going through the pipeline and touching base. Sometimes people, as soon as they get the email, they're like, oh yeah, it's great to hear from you again. I'm ready now. Or, it just helps me keep an ongoing supply. And then if you're in a more artistic field, say music or art, sometimes even tangible postcards that you can leave in coffee shops, conventions, and all advertising services can be helpful. I did have business cards in the beginning, but then again, everything was so online and most of my clients are either through referrals or that site. So that's why I really haven't bought business cards again. I just have them for my regular job. So people have asked me, if I started from scratch again today, what are some things I would do? The biggest thing is think about your niche. There's a saying that the riches are in the niches. And so that's talking about, rather than just do a general career site, which I have that as my business card, but I have another one, which I do it for radiology technician careers. And I research that by keywords and, a lot of search engine optimization stuff. And it looked like there weren't a lot of direct career sites for that particular niche. So I've been growing that over time. And again, the websites, I'm hoping to go to more of a passive income, but that takes some time. So it's like, my 20 hours a week with the consulting dollars for hours. But then if I have this other income stream that it may take time that I'm working on. You want to also, think about, is recruiting for you? Is it employer relations? Are there specific fields that you have? What are some things that you already do in your job so far? And then really diversify your platforms. That's why I have people pay me through PayPal, through referrals, but then I also have people that pay me through the Upwork. Collect emails on your website from day one and get that consistent content for the website. Again, I am working on that myself because there's just only so many hours in a day, but those are things that I'm telling myself I'm going to do more this year. I call it setting yourself up for serendipity. The one that I'm using right now is MailChimp. And that is you can do some free services. And then once I grow enough, I probably would do ConvertKit or something like that. But there's a lot of great mail services. What you do is you create this chain of emails ahead of time. So then when people sign up, they get these auto responders that take them through the chain, engage them. So that way, you're not worrying about answering these emails at 3 a.m. It's already being done for you, and you can make sure that they've got a consistent experience. And like I said, again, have a social media presence. It it's best if you can be on multiple platforms, but maybe you just start with, Facebook or LinkedIn or Twitter or Instagram. See whatever's easiest for you and that you'll be putting on consistent content. And also with Facebook and Instagram being the same company now, owned by the same company, that's a lot easier because if you post something on Instagram, it just automatically goes on your Facebook. Okay, here's that site, Upwork. As you can see, there are the different categories from, anything as broad as customer service, marketing, accounting. You can, Google on there. What I would do is, look at other freelancers who are on there and see what they have been doing. And again, I'm under there. You can just put Tiffany Franklin resume Upwork and find my category. If you want to follow up with me, I'm happy to talk about it. But you really do live and die by your reviews. When I was on that site, I basically undercharged in the beginning just because I had to get some initial business, but then I quickly raised my prices. So just to give you an idea, I probably was only charging like $100 for a resume then. Now I charge more, $250 to $300. So it took some time. I didn't do it all in one day. I was maybe, $25 here and there raises over the years. But once I got some good reviews, you really leverage that. The big thing is delivering that great client experience. So one of the most helpful things I ever started to do was a 15-minute goals discussion with clients within the first 24 hours of when they do the contract. Sometimes I'll even try and do this chat before we solidify the contract on Upwork, just because I want to see, does it feel right? In the way, I'm fine if people try and negotiate, but it's all about the way that they do it. And I have certain minimums that I must keep. So it's, just being professional in the experience. And so with this talk, and usually people say they love it, it's where we introduce ourselves. I talk to them about my process, which typically clients work with me for about a week. I let them know, how I hear what they're interested in and what their main goals are, because I think that's so important for clients to feel that they're heard. And so, for instance, it may take me 3 days to actually do their resume, but I will tell them 4 just to give myself some cushion, because my day job may end up being crazy. I may, a friend may need me one night. You just never know with life. It's good to give yourself a cushion. So as they say, under promise, over deliver. And then I communicate often. Sometimes I'll encounter questions I didn't think I had, or other things, or even just to update, so they feel like they're hearing from me, at least every 2 days during the process. And the biggest thing is, and I think it took me a little time to really learn this, have confidence in your message, value what you bring, but also listen to the clients and understand their unique concerns. In connecting with the audience, I think it's important to do some market research, figure out who they are, where they're located. If you can ever stumble upon message boards where people are complaining about something, that is gold. There can be a lot of forums on, Reddit or, social media platforms. Like, for instance, I found this thread for my radiology technician's careers that told people not to go into that career. And so what I could do is look at some of the issues they were having and then design some of my resources to address those problems. You can use hashtag searches, search on Twitter, search on various platforms, and also find other professionals in the community. I mean, we're all in this together. Build a community. I know technically people may be your competition, but I think, again, there's enough space for each of us, and we can differentiate ourselves. Like, for instance, when I went into I've grown every year in my side business, except for the year that I was a recruiter when I went from Vanderbilt to Philly, and I worked as a recruiter a year before starting at Penn. And I did not have time recruiting to do my side business as much. So actually, I referred people to one of my competitors on the old site, Elance. I talked to him and said, hey, I don't have time for this. Would you be open? And he was really excited and became a good, contact through the years. And I've also found that some of my clients have become friends of mine over the years. It just, happens organically. So again, I think one of the hardest things with starting your own side business, especially if you're a one-woman show, are all the different things you have to think about beyond just delivering what you're good at. There's the sales aspect, the pipelining, the taxes, making sure that you're reading up on this to keep this business legal and keep it going. And also just to make sure that you have some balance while you're doing it. One of the big things with a side business is avoiding conflicts of interest. So for me, I was very clear with Vanderbilt and now at Penn to go over my company's policies on side work. That sometimes meant I had to sign a conflict of interest form. With Vandy, that meant I had to have a separate LinkedIn for my side business. And then with Penn, it was different. I don't have to have a separate LinkedIn, but I can't work with any Penn alumni because through my work in career services, we serve other people. So I have to be careful with stuff like that. So just have transparency with your leadership and show them that you've thought of ways to avoid conflicts. And when you think about it, the main job is always going to be your priority. So that makes decision making easy in that regard. One of the biggest things I had to get used to with a side business was the art of saying no. That way it's easier with those potential conflicts of interest, but also, you want to do what you enjoy. So again, most people that I have met through this are really amazing and I've had great clients, but every once in a while you'll get one where it's just not meshing or what they're asking you to do, you just don't really want to do. And that's okay. You don't have to do this. For me, I found it was better to limit my range of services to a few that do really well rather than try and do too many things. So, follow your instincts with those potential clients and think about what things do you really like. But then, for instance, I have expanded. So I do resumes, cover letters, career coaching, LinkedIn. But then I have started in the past few years with this thing called job scanning, those applicant tracking systems, where employers, they use software to parse through resumes. As I've gotten that technology, I realized I can help my clients with that. So I made that another piece of my service. So it's not that I'm not growing and changing. It was just I wasn't trying to expand too much and have scope creep in the beginning. Okay. So what are the pros and cons of having this side business? And these are just for me personally. The extra money is great. I love the intellectual challenge of it. And I really found that it gives me some professional development. There are so many things, I'm working with students at Vanderbilt or Penn now, and it's fun to actually, sometimes I'll be with a client who's 20 years ahead of where they're at in the same field. So it gives me great perspective. Also, I can get a snapshot of all these different careers and learn about some things kind of as they're happening in companies and compare what I feel is happening in academia. And it gives me knowledge to leverage in my main job. In fact, I think it's one of the other reasons I was hired at Penn. And then the cons, though, are lots of taxes. So again, talk to your accounting professional. I live in Center City, Philadelphia, so I pay city taxes, I pay federal taxes, and I pay state taxes. And I have to pay them on a quarterly basis through all the estimated. So be sure, again, talk with your accountant, but usually you probably have to put around 40% away just to make sure with the Social Security and all that other stuff. Long hours, a lot of times you just want to go home, watch Netflix, relax. And when I know, okay, I have to do, 2 or 3 hours of work, I will say it, I gained about 15 pounds doing this. I'm working on getting it off, but, a lot of times I used to do for the gym and fun stuff, that was hard. But I think it's worth it because, again, I'm working on being healthy now, but I'm glad what I'm building. And for me, it was, since I was doing what I'm doing in my primary career, it's all career coaching all the time. So maybe you want to do something completely different. And I will find myself in a coffee shop with my phone, my iPad, my laptop, and then I've even got my travel laptop. So sometimes it can be crazy. So make your own list before starting your side gig. So when times get tough, you can look at the pros, but be realistic about the cons. And again, what are all these things that you're balancing, your health, your life, your family, relationships, and on this journey? So how do you balance it? For me, it was setting a limit that I really try not to work more than 20 hours a week. I have been better recently about taking 2 separate weeks a year where I completely break off from all work, meaning I will have multiple out of the office for both my real job and my side job. And then limit the amount of time you pick up your phone. Sometimes I will challenge myself to do better than the week before with my screen time goals. And even if you have to, schedule your time with family and friends where you don't look at your phone for at least an hour, and try and keep up with the good habits, which I haven't always been, but I'm being better about it now. Okay, so how do you scale and design, especially for, it sounds like there was a good almost 60% of you had businesses already. So, as you're trying to decide how many clients or how much business you can handle, that can change over time, whether your relationship status or the age of your kids, or maybe your primary job is changing. So what works for you? For me, I have to take some breaks in early fall when academia is really crazy or during events. I talked to you about when I referred from my other fellow career coaches when I was doing recruiting, and just know that every journey looks different. I look at a lot of other people, look at people in your field who are doing this for inspiration, but sometimes it can be a little intimidating when you see, wow, they've done this and it was so great, and it's not working out the exact same way for me. But then what I've learned is I found ways that just were unique to me that maybe didn't work out for them. So every journey is different, and also it depends on what time you're starting the journey. Sometimes people with blogs, they were able to they started in, in '08 and really took them to the next level, where nowadays maybe that's what it's like if you're starting podcasts. People ask me why I haven't taken this full time. For me, the whole point was I wanted to be able to stay in higher ed. It's a job that I love, helping students, and I really do like the social connections from work. I think I'd be lonely if I worked completely from home all the time, but I do want to give myself flexibility. So it's not to say I would never do this full time, but for right now, it's a nice balance for me. Also, just with health insurance and retirement and all, it makes more sense for me to balance in both. So I love this quote that entrepreneurship is living a few years of your life like most people won't, so you can spend the rest of your life like most people can't. And that's on days when I don't feel like doing stuff. That's what drives me forward. The funny thing is, I was thinking about traits of a successful entrepreneur because I've been working with startups in my day job, and I didn't always think of myself as an entrepreneur. I'm like, oh, I'm just running a little side business. And yes, it's not, in Silicon Valley, but it's interesting how entrepreneurs, there can be so many different ways of what it looks like, but there can be shared traits. The confidence, well, that depends on the day, but that definitely has grown over the years. Are you competitive? Do you have a hard time turning work off? Which I will say yes. Are you very focused? Are you self-motivated? Are you a born leader? Do you love to create things? Being willing to fail and try things, being creative, and advocating for your brand at all times. There's a good checklist by Jonathan Long that I attached at the bottom of that, so you can check it out. One thing I will say, other people have asked me a few times, do you want to start an agency? I've gotten a lot of people asking different things. And while I try and keep an open mind to go beyond my comfort zone and try different things, I really thought hard about that. And I just decided I don't want to supervise other people. I just want to do some other things. So for me, it's, again, looking at that passive income structures. For anybody that thinks they may be interested in that, there's this great site called Smart Passive Income with Pat Flynn. And that, again, it's Smart Passive Income. And I think it's an awesome source of, if you want to do some podcasting, if you want to launch your website, lots of resources on there for free that I think were helpful. So there's some other resources for starting a small business. The U.S. Small Business Administration has 10 steps to starting a business, and their mission is to help millions of people, and there's some of them talk about loans and contracts, counseling, and just other forms of assistance. Matthew Torn has this great article, a simple 6-step process to starting a small business, so those are other things you can check out. I talked about LegalZoom before. That was huge for me, and, for a couple $100 helping me get my LLC up and going, and, affordable advice when you're on a shoestring budget to help with that compliance or copyright, trademark, whatever is relevant. Obviously, if you have more funds, then you can move on to more private counsel on that, but it's always helpful. One of the things, never underestimate how much you can Google. So I've done so many tutorials on lynda.com or LinkedIn Learning for technology issues. Like one time it took me 2 hours to figure out how to do a search box on my website, but I did it and I was really proud of that. And for, YouTube videos I'm looking into. SCORE is that organization we talked about before. Some good books to read. I think it's great to have some inspiration when you're going through a lot of this. So Adam Grant is a professor here at Wharton, and he did this book. He's done a lot of great books like Give and Take, but Originals, How Nonconformists Move the World. Benjamin Franklin. There's, also this list of must-reads for aspiring entrepreneurs, and, from Business Insider has one as well. So you can check out those. Again, for finding resources near you, if you look at the U.S. Small Business Administration map, they have it by state, so you can put in your zip code and see specifically what's near you. One thing I always like to think about is, if you're getting started or trying to take things from the next level, a year from now, you'll wish you had started today. So just take baby steps. Sometimes I get a little overwhelmed for all the things I want to do, but what I do is just write it on a list, almost like creating a syllabus for myself, and say, I don't have to become the next overnight success tomorrow. I just have to do one little thing off that list to get me closer, even if it's just researching best practices. And then little by little, you keep taking those steps, and then you start looking like, oh, where was I 6 months ago? Where was I 6 years ago? It'll surprise you. Some other tips for success, again, are the importance of research. Know yourself, your special skills, where you need reinforcements, know the market as a whole, know your audience, and due diligence is key. And it's okay to outsource. While you're the one who wants people to hire you, there may be stuff that you can't do that you hire them for. And just remember, a lot of things take more time than you think. So it's really a marathon. Just be patient and try to provide your customers more value than anyone else, and find mentors. Some final thoughts here. Have those clear definitions between your day job and your side gig. So that way, again, the day job always wins, but you want them to hopefully not adversely affect each other. If you're working with partners or collaborators, really make sure that you define what that is going to look like in the operating agreements and the partnerships beforehand. And do your side work because it makes you happy. If you just need the extra cash, maybe it's better just to take a quick part-time job that you won't have to go through all this, and it doesn't require as much of you. But if this is what you want to do, it can be so worth it. If it's your passion, keep it up, because even during those lean times, it doesn't mean they're always going to be like that. I remember a lot of times through this process, my mom talked to me saying, just remember, the clients will come. So here's my contact information. Please feel free to reach out to me, and you can see my LinkedIn, and those are my websites. So I'm happy to answer any questions you may have.
All right. So, yes, send in any questions that you have right now, and we will get those answered.
And thanks for your time. I hope this was helpful for everybody.
All right. So first question. How long did it take for you to be settled in 2 jobs?
It probably took a good 6 months. I mean, I wasn't really always getting enough sleep. And I mean, even now, I think having that spreadsheet really helped me kind of figure things out and just balance things better. I mean, there are even times now where it's, I will have my craziest month ever, and I don't want to say no to people, but then, so it's an ongoing thing, but I think a couple of months and it got better.
Great. Next question is, do you think it is helpful to have 2 people running the side business, like having a partner?
I think it depends on what you're doing. One of my friends here at work, he is doing a podcast. And so they're doing something so big that they need somebody on the technical side and somebody on the creative side. For me, it was easier. I think if you're kind of more of a consultant, it's easier just to keep things simple. Maybe what you can do is partner on one project and kind of see how you guys work together. Because, as we all know, even just, with friends, going on vacation together, working together can be a whole different story than, just your regular friendship. So maybe do some little test out things where you test the water and then see what would make sense. But also, it depends if you guys bring essential things to the other where you can get so much further together, then it may be worth it from the outset.
All right, next question. How do you look for mentors? What criteria do you use to find those mentors?
What I'll do is I look at some of those big, national people like through LinkedIn who are influencers, and of course, usually they're too big to actually be mentors. But I'll kind of look at, maybe some people that they refer. I'll just Google some people in my area, and I'll look through mastermind groups that they may have in your area, and just kind of reading a lot about what's going on and then maybe reaching out to people. I don't actually say, hey, would you be my mentor? But what I may do is see if they'd be open to talk, and how did they, almost like what we tell students to do, those informational interviews. So maybe find somebody one or two steps, sure, you can reach out to the rock stars, but who knows if they'll get back. But find somebody a few steps ahead of you and just see would they have 5 or 10 minutes to talk. And maybe it'll be longer, or if they're local, see if you can take them to coffee and just ask them, what were the things that they did that they found were, most effective in either getting started, if you're getting started, or taking their business to the next level. The old saying is get people talking about themselves and they'll think it's the best conversation they've had. So go on that principle. And always reach out to more people than you actually want to talk to, because sometimes people may want to get back to you, but they're just crazy busy, so they don't. So don't take it personally if they don't.
Perfect. Well, that is all that's been submitted, but feel free to send in a few more if you have any. But Tiffany, thank you so much for sharing your wisdom and encouragement with us today. I know I learned a lot today, and just feel better, in a better place for if you're curious about a side business. I want to encourage you all to check out all the career resources we have, both in person and electronic, provided to you by the Vanderbilt Alumni Association. Later this week, I will send a follow-up email with this archived link, a request for feedback, and more details about future events. Our next webinar will be held on March 19th with career coach Rebecca Quigley, so feel free to sign up for that on VU Connect. And as always, we're looking to improve upon our career offerings. So if you ever have any ideas or something you're looking into, please send them my way, and we're always looking to support you. Thanks again for joining us, and have a great day. Thanks again, Tiffany.
Thanks, Whitney, and thanks, everybody, for your time.